start. Now we're going to start the next Gemorah on Gimel Beis, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down from the beginning of the white lines. Tani, we learned. Hamavas chaver stam. You lend money from your friend plainly. En rosh tavo. You cannot bother him. Pafus milamid yom. For less than 30 days. You borrow money from your friend stam plainly. En rosh tavo. You cannot bother him for less than 30 days. What does it mean you lend money from? What does it mean? What does it mean you lend money stam? So the answer is as follows. Let's say someone wants to go, for example, by Pearl's lending someone money, and he says to the person, okay, I want you to pay me back in a week from now. It's coming to a week from now. When could Rabbi Pearl start bothering him? In a week. If he says, I want the money back right away, he could start bothering him right away. We all know that that's true. But let's say he doesn't say anything. He just says, okay, pay me back. Pay me back. He doesn't give him a certain time. When can he go and say, what? It's time to pay back? Only after 30 days. So again, if you say, I want it back in a day, you can bother him in a day, not before that. But if he doesn't give, he says, Amav Siver Stam. He lends money to his friend plainly without coming to a specific time. You have 30 days. Let's read those words again. Tanya, we learned, Amav Siver Stam. You lend money to your friend plainly without, what does plainly mean? Without giving a specific time. And you cannot bother him, you cannot bother for less than 30 days. That is the halacha, yes.
Very soon, but you don't specify an exact.
So I'm not sure what very soon therefore means. One could argue what very soon means. Does that
30 days?
What? I don't know. Because very soon, I would say very soon means not in a while, meaning you're not giving a full amount of time. I'm not sure. What the lesson is very soon would mean. Good question. I'm not sure. So now then that's as soon as you get it. You're giving a time. That's a time period. Whenever your parents give you the money, that's a time period. Find out when the parents give you, then you can bother them for it. So that's the halacha. The question is, where does the Tanaim get this halacha from? You can't just make it up out of nowhere. So Rav Hamnuna comes and says, I know it from. It's specifically because it's very clear. It's indicative of when you lent him money. It was indicative you were planning on giving him 30 days. Why? Because we're talking about a specific case where you lend money through a star. Meaning, we explained before, there are two ways to lend money. One way is, again, Chaim again is lending me money. He's a good person, by the way, anyone ever needs. We'll give a phone number afterwards. Chaim is a good guy to borrow money from, right? So I want to borrow money from Chaim. Chaim is going to go and has two ways to lend me. He can either go and take a pen, and borrow a pen, and we can write down a piece of paper, okay, Rabbi Bernstein owes me money, and so on and so forth, and write on the document, right? And have two signatures on the document. That's one way to do it. The other way of doing it is what? Right? I want to borrow money from Chaim. He says, no problem. Hey, you two guys, if you see, I'm lending Rabbi Bernstein money. Yeah, he's lending me money. I'll pay him back. I'll pay. That's orally. Which way is easier? Easier just to take two guys quickly and orally tell them. Why would he, right? And so on. But if Chaim decided that he wanted to do what? Actually write a document. Sit down and, okay, let's make sure we write it the right way. Okay, let's write it down properly. Okay, Rabbi Bernstein, why would he go and spend so much time writing a whole document? It's so much easier to find two people. Answer is, it's indicative of him that he wants to give me a long time. Why? Because why didn't you just get two guys? Oh, he plans to give me a while. And he knows if I give him a while, these two guys might not be around anymore. They might forget. They might go on vacation. They might go move somewhere else. So if I'm giving him a while, if I'm giving him a while, I better make sure I write it down on a document, not realize these two guys you might forget or might move away. So therefore, he's saying that when the Tanaim told us that you lend money stam, you have 30 days to pay back, because it's obvious the fact that you're a document, you're planning to give me 30 days. Now that you change your mind, too tough. But let's say you lend money, I'll pay. You lend money orally, there's no indication you plan on giving me a long time, and you can bother me right away. That is what he's going to say. I'm going to read it, and then I'll take both of your questions, okay? Now let's go for the price again. Tanya, Amalas Chaver Stam, you lend money for your friend plainly without coming to a certain time period. You can't bother and bogus milam and yom. Why? So Rabbi Bar Bachana, Kamei Derav Lamema. Rabbi Bachana was standing in front of Rav, and he said, Hani Mili, these words, were bright, Hani Mili b'malva b'shtar. That's when you lend money through a star. These words are hard, everyone focus. Delo of an inish. The person when I do the Torah, to work so hard, to cut the star, to write a star, for less than 30 days. Again, specifically when you learn money through a document. The law of the English, a person will do to talk, to work so hard, to cut the star, to write a star, less than 30 days. But let's say he did it orally, lent me money orally, low. Then in that case, it wouldn't be the case. And therefore, we think, how did Tanaim know the halacha? They know the halacha because it's indicative that he decided to grab his way to write a star that he was planning on giving a long time. If he let me orally, it would not apply. Yes?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Are you allowed to write a document and get to people?
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the ways you do it. But the idea is it's written on the document compared to just people you can't rely on them, they go away. Yeah.
And also, what if you tell the witnesses what time it would be, but you write on the document plainly saying...
If the witness, as long as you set a time, that would be enough. We're saying we're talking about when you don't make any time. You don't indicate at all. Okay? Yeah.
So it's not indicative that you don't give a long time because it's like you said, a document is better than having just random 2 people saying, "Oh yeah, I'm lending money." I would sometimes forget on a day. So if I were ever lending money, I would always just do it.
Okay, and that's a better way to do it, but practically it takes a long time to write documents. It's practically difficult. So you're right, it makes most sense, and it's the best way to do it, but practically you don't always have time. And your point is very valid. So now we're going to say no. Amalei Rav Hachi Amar Chabibi. This is what my uncle said to me. Rav's uncle was what? His name was Rabbi, and he was an expert in Bryces. He was an expert in Bryces, and he knew better than anyone else what the Bryces say. So Amar Rav Hachi Amar Chabibi. My Chabibi, my uncle told me, Rabbi told me, Echa Amal B'Shtar, whether it's a document, whether it's a loan through a document, Echa Amal B'Peh. But whether it's orally, halakha say not only that time we also learn, it says straight out, Hamabas Chaver Stam, you lend money to you very plainly. You cannot bother for 3 days. Here's the kicker: whether it's a loan through a shtar or whether a loan through a document. So you see, either way the halach is the same. So therefore, Rabbi Khan is wrong. So therefore, what is the reason for our Mishnah? What is the reason for the Brisa? How do you know the halacha to be so? The answer is, it says in the Torah, we're talking about the idea of lending money and not deciding I'm not going to lend money, right? Maybe you have his bad thought saying, it's coming the 7th year, which is the year of Shemitah, and I'm not going to lend money. You can't do that. And what are extra words over here? The 2 extra words, Shnas HaShemitah. It tells you over here the 7th year, which is the year of Shemitah. We already know the 7th year is the year of Shemitah. We've discussed Shemitah before in the Torah. Why does it tell you the 7th year, which is the year of Shemitah? Answer is teaching you there is another type of Shemitah. Not only is it the regular Shemitah of lo yigosh, they can't bother for 7 years. There's another type of Shemitah which is you cannot borrow. If you borrow money from someone stam, plainly ein rishlat tava b'chus milamid yom. So we're getting this from the words of the Torah. We're seeing from the Torah that there is another type of Shemitah. Now let's read inside. Amalei Shmuel l'Rav Menaseh. Shmuel said to Rav Masna, Lo tiyasev akacha, do not get up from your seat. Lo tiyasev akacha, do not get up from your seat until you explain to me lahai shmaita, this saying, minah hamilsa, where it comes from. I don't want you to get from me until you tell me. I need you to explain to me where this saying comes from. What's the saying? The Rabbanan say, you lend money to you very plainly. You cannot bother for less than 30 days. Whether it's milbishtar, whether it's al peh. Right? How do you know? Right? So Amalei said to him, the Ksiv is written in the pasuk, Kavish Nasa Sheva Shnasa Shemitah. It's reached in the 7th year, which is the year of Shemitah. Mashma, it implies Shenemar Kavish Nasa Sheva. It implies from the fact that it says the 7th year. The Eina Yoda, I don't know Shush Nasa Shemitah. I don't even know it's Shemitah. Let me read those words again. The Ksiv is written in the pasuk, Kavish Nasa Hashem Shnasa Shemitah, the 7th year, which is the year of Shemitah. Mashma Shenemar Kavish Nasa Sheva. It implies from the fact that it says the 7th year. The Eina Yoda, I don't know Shush Nasa Shemitah. We don't know the Shemitah, which is ridiculous. Al Matam Alom Shnasa Shemitah. What does the word Shnasa Shemitah tell you? What does the actual word teach you? Lo malach, the yesh shmita acher shukazu. There is another shmita like this one. But what is this one? Hamavas severis tam. You lend money to your friend plainly. Ein lo shayla tava box milam yom. You cannot borrow them for less than 30 days. Amar Mar, the Mar says shloshim yom. 30 days in the year is like a year. And that is halacha over there, and that's the reason for halacha. You lend money to your friend plainly, you have 30 days to pay back, right? This halacha over here, you lend money to your friend plainly, you have 30 days to pay back. What's the reason? Because we learn from the Torah that there's another type of a shemitah, there is another type of lo yigosh. Now we're about to start the next Gemorah, which we like to call entitled Thol and Gimel Beis, Shirts and Barrels. Let me get this up on, keep everything rolling. And we're going to find it on the smart board. It should take a moment. Okay. Again, we're talking about next case over here. Again, we continue on our side tangent over here, as Rashi told us again. Points out again, we're talking about things that Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, and Rav Kana asks a question. If someone opens up the neck of a swear on Shabbos, chayav chadas, you're chayav a chadas. What is that case over here? We know in the old days when they used to make sweaters and other things, it was actually made clothes, and afterwards they would cut it. Let's go over here. Let's give you an example over here. If you're able to see it over here on our smart board, you imagine you have your sweater over here, and you have a sweater you want to put on Shabbat. You're like, uh-oh, it's not closing. Someone forgot to cut the top off. So what do? You take your magic scissors, and you go and you simply go and you cut off the top on Shabbat. That you can't do on Shabbat. On Shabbat, let's read it again. I'm Rabbi Yehuda, I'm Rav. You open the neck of a sweater on Shabbos or a garment, chayav chad. You can't do it. The problem is, Masile Rav Kana has a contradiction. What's the meaning of this? Is opening up a barrel. What's the meaning of this? In opening a barrel, we know the halacha is if someone wants to cut open a barrel, right? Wants to take a barrel and cut open a Shabbos because they want to have take some wine. You're allowed to go and do it in Shabbat. So what's the difference? Right, the same thing. You're cutting open the neck. One's the neck of a swear, one's the neck of a barrel. What's the difference? So again, Masile Rav Kana, what's the meaning of this? And a barrel. Amalei answered back to him, but this is attached and this is not. In the case of a barrel, how do you think they got the barrel, the wine in there? It's not like the jelly donuts we have, the little paloopas. Here, what do? They slice off the barrel originally, put the wine in, and glue it back on. And as Rashi's going to learn, as Rashi says as well, this is it's a matakin keli, right? It would be, sorry. In this case, it would be fine. Why? Because all you're doing over here is a full barrel. There's nothing wrong over here. You have a normal full barrel. All you're doing is ripping off glue. You're not ripping the barrel. But in the case of a sweater, though, in the case of a sweater, this is a full sweater over here. A full sweater is makot. You're doing a matakin keli. You're ripping the keli. But as I explained to you last time, if you decide, hey, I don't want to cut off the top of the barrel over here, what do I rather want to do? I'd rather go and put a spigot rather than here. That, of course, would be matakin keli. That would be us, just like a sweater. Because here you're not ripping glue, you're actually ripping the barrel. But that's not what we usually do. On Shabbat, what you're allowed to do, you're allowed to cut off the slice off the barrel on top. That is what you are allowed to do. So that is the case over here. Again, he answers, this is attached and this is not attached.